Good afternoon, everybody. So you have just finished reviewing your Hansel and Gretel read-alouds. You should have listened to them already and then just re-listened to them to make sure that you are familiar with all of the details, all of the characters, everything that happens in the story, the problems, the solutions, all of that. So now I'm going to have you write about the story. You are going to retell the story in your own words. Now, we've done this with a lot of different stories we read, especially when we did fables and folk tales and different lands, similar stories. So when we did like Little Red Riding Hood versions and Thumbelina versions, we did a lot of retelling. So I want you to think about all of the things we do when we retell a story. So first of all, we tell about the most important things that happen in the story. Of course, when we're retelling, we don't want to rewrite the entire story because that would take way too long. And we don't want to include all of the details, just the most important details. So I've actually made a little retelling booklet for you, and at the top of each page is a picture from the story to help guide you along in your retelling. Now we're going to go through just to review it together so that you have a good idea of what you need to write on each page to make sure that you retell all of the important parts of the story and that somebody reading your retelling knows exactly what happened in the story, even if they haven't read the entire thing. So this is the first page, and I even gave you a starter sentence, in the beginning. So we know that this is going to talk about the beginning of the story. Now you might notice that this isn't the very first picture in the story, but it is from the beginning parts of the story. So I want you to think about the things that happened before this image, because you still need to include details about those things. For example, why are they in the woods? Who are these two little kids? Who are the other two people in the picture? Whoever is reading your writing isn't going to know those things unless you tell them. So as you retell a story, I want you to tell me who this story is about, who those two little kids are, and why they're out there in the woods sitting by a fire. Think about the problem in the beginning of the story, what the family didn't have enough of, the evil character that decided to put them out there. Those are the important details that we want to include in this page. Make sure that you give everybody who's reading your writing a really good introduction to the beginning part of Hansel and Gretel. Okay, we go to the next page. We have another picture. On this page, you're going to continue retelling about the story. You're going to tell me between the first picture and now what has happened, what the characters are doing, what those things are in the picture, why they're following them, all of those good details. Here's the next picture. So here you're going to continue writing about the middle of the story. We've gotten to the middle parts of the story. So tell me what's happening, what the characters are doing, all of the important details for the middle part of the story. Okay, now you'll notice that there's some pictures of the story missing between this picture and this picture. But that's because, remember, we aren't rewriting the entire story. So what you have to do is you have to make sure you include the details that happened between this picture and this picture. So they didn't go straight from being back inside their house to finding this magical home that's decorated with candy. There were some important things that happened between there. So make sure when you start writing on this page, you include those important details. Make sure you explain how the children got here. What were they doing? There are a lot of really great details about how they got to this point in the story throughout the middle. Important details about Hansel's plan between this picture and this one. What happened to his plan, how they were not able to find their way back, all of those important details. So now you need to tell me about those and then what is happening in this picture. Ooh, that's a good part of the story. So you're going to explain to me how the characters got to this point and what is happening in this part of the story. So we know, of course, they found the house, but then you're also going to explain who was in the house, what happened once they got to the house, because then you'll be talking about this part and we don't want to leave out those important details. So tell me what's going on in this part of the story. Tell me about those characters, especially the evil one, what she's doing, why he's in that cage, all of those important details. But then you'll notice it goes to the end. So make sure when you're writing about the middle of the story, you tell me what happens in this part to help them get to this part. So for example, you can't just tell me that Hansel was in the cage and you can't just tell me what the old lady was doing. You have to explain, well, how did they end up getting out? So that they could get to this point in the story. And then of course, you're going to tell me how the story ends. Remember, include the most important details, but you don't have to include all the details, just the ones that help me understand what is happening in the story, so that when I read through your retelling, even if I haven't read or listened to the fairy tale like we did, I would know what was exactly happening in the story. It would be a really good retelling of all the important characters, the important details, the important events, and the important problems and solutions throughout the story. Take your time on this. Make sure you do your best handwriting. Make sure as you write, you're rereading what you write to make sure it makes sense and that you're getting all those great important details in your retelling. I know y'all will do an amazing job and I can't wait to read what you write.